Hi, so I don't know if you got the message, but I'm going to be speaking in English. Hope that's okay with everyone. Just a show of hands, how many of you actually work in marketing by itself, just marketing? Okay, that's more or less what I thought. So I'm going to be speaking about content marketing, obviously, but from a perspective of SEO a little bit. So a little bit of background. So hi, good evening. Hope you got some beer. I'm Ari Nahmani, and there's an awesome cell phone there. So Kahena is just across the courtyard, actually, and JVP is nice enough to let us rent space here. We are a inbound marketing agency, but with a focus on organic search. What does that mean? We help companies improve their natural search presence, get more search traffic, improve their leads, increase sales, and so on. And as part of that effort, which I'm going to go into in a moment, content marketing has become more and more important as a focus or a fundamental as to what we do to achieve the goals of our clients. So yeah, feel free to network. There's some of our staff here. We'd love to chat with you. So diving right in, the web is no longer this place where you could just build a website and launch it tomorrow and start naturally attracting search traffic or referral traffic and so on, right? In the sort of old days, and specifically with SEO and rankings, but I think in all areas, a small mom and pop shop or a small startup could just launch a website, and they just having that website and having a nice looking presence would be good enough. But as technology and as sort of bigger brands started to catch up in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, things start to get very, very complicated and stuffy. So, you know, from our perspective, what we've been dealing with in this transition is the small businesses and the small startups trying to catch up, right? So like a small shoe salesman who wants to be #1 in Google for shoes, right? So these illusions of grandeur, what they can achieve. And because of that, in order to keep up, you have sort of these sketchy tactics that were around for the last several years, no longer. But in order to rank organically or to bring traffic, all these sort of gimmicks or tactics span really to rank well. And I don't know if you can see this lighting here, but that's an ugly picture of the penguin. How many of you have heard of penguin in terms of Google? Okay, some of you. So penguin was an algorithm change. Oh, thank you. That much uglier now. So penguin was an algorithm change by Google, which penalized people who were manipulating their algorithm with something called link spam. Okay, and there's another one, another pretty animal called panda. Okay, and that algorithm was against content farms. So we're talking about content marketing now. So those that understood that content was important, they would create millions of pages on their site to rank organically, naturally for different search terms. So every possible search query you could imagine, they created a piece of content, a few hundred words, and Google penalized that. So this kind of stuff that used to work no longer does, and definitely not at scale. They finally caught up, thankfully. So this article marketing or directories, right, where you used to just put your website in this directory, these hundreds of sketchy directories that used to work, or made a piece of content in these directories of articles, right, where you would put your article and then other people could take that article for free and put it on their website if it was relevant for them. It doesn't work. And by the way, the purpose would be that there would be a link back to your site embedded in that article. Some other tactics that are just kind of no longer working if you ever come across them. Paid link farms, right? So you would pay to get your content on other people's websites, linking back to yours, again, to improve your equity of your website so that you would naturally start to attract search traffic. And even guest blogging. How many of you guys know what guest blogging is or have heard of it? Great. So guest blogging is actually when it's done right, it's actually it's a legitimate, you know, form of marketing, form of content marketing, where I'm a subject matter expert, and I put something on someone else's blog, and I write a nice piece on their blog. Let's say it's TechCrunch if I'm really lucky, and in my bio I'm linking back to my website, whatever that is. And in doing that, we sort of bring the equity of that website to ours. Even that, for purposes of SEO, or you could even say content marketing, is no longer okay in Google's eyes when it's done at scale, when it's done to manipulate PageRank, okay? So the bottom line is, these guys, you know, the hackers in their mother's basements, are the ones who are going to be left doing these kinds of tactics. These manipulative, churn and burn tactics that will result in a penalty from Google or the other engines. And quite frankly, I think if you're associated with those kinds of things, and that translate across other channels too, right? Like social and buying links and all of that stuff. It's no longer going to matter. And so what I'm here to basically say is that even the smallest startups or enterprises need to start acting like bigger brands, okay? And really, most of you have probably never heard of this guy. He's sort of bigger in the SEO industry. His name is Will Reynolds, but he has this thing called RCS, and what it means is real company shit. And real company shit means that if you have a startup or an idea or a website, you're not going to do manipulative tactics in order to rank well. It just won't work anymore, or bring in traffic, or do sort of millions of pieces of content that aren't legitimate. You need to do what real companies do, and that's great content. So I know everybody hears this term, content is king, and shout out to our intern Robin who made this graphic. I love this content king thing. So content is still king, but I'm going to go even further and say that it's not enough anymore to just push publish and hope that something happens. And that's what I'm going to dig in deeper. And I'm going to go through a lot of different tactics that you guys can use once you have that great piece of content. So real marketing is not set it and forget it. If anybody maybe from the US knows this infomercial. And neither is marketing content, right? You can't just hit publish and hope that something's going to happen. That users are going to find this organically, or that there's some magic that happens, that you have something amazing, whether it's an infographic or some tool or a quiz or a great article. They're not going to find it just by you hitting publish. So I'm going to show you how you can help them find your great content. And it's about hustle. Okay, this is really about hustling to ensure that users are going to find your great content. And it's through these three things. And this is what I'm going to cover today. So organic seeding, paid acceleration, and automation. All right, so organic seeding is placing your content on various networks or websites that allow a massive audience to see it and maybe sort of accelerate the process of discovery. Paid acceleration is using, or some people call it paid organic. It's using small budgets, which Ido is going to talk about probably after me, to accelerate the viewing, the sort of snowball effect of when many people use it and see something, they start to share it and so on, and automation. And we'll get into that now. So organic seeding, and I'm going to go fast now. I don't know if Ido is still stuck in traffic. You either have time or you have money, right? So if you have content on your site, you either are a small startup that has a lot of time to push your content, hopefully, or you're a bigger company and you can actually spend money to get that accelerated. So if you have time, you can seed that content on content discovery networks, right? It's not all of our time on Facebook and Twitter now. There's so much stuff out there. It's like we're all ADD now because we're just consuming so much that I think many people in the future is that we are going to turn to curated content where there are editors who are going to go and find that great stuff for you to look at. It's kind of why BuzzFeed is so successful, among other reasons, but they go and they find the funniest pictures on the web, or the most hilarious or most inspiring video like Upworthy. So we're turning to these content networks. So the idea is, how can you get your content in the front of these networks? So how many of you guys remember StumbleUpon or have heard of it before, right? So StumbleUpon is kind of back, believe it or not. This is just an example. So 13 clever hacks for things you thought were trash, okay? And you can't really see it here, but there's 18,000 shares, or views rather, on this network. Now, the original was on this Apartment Geeks blog, all right? But it's not such an amazing content piece. It's just 13 images, you know, of little life hacker type things that you can turn things to help you, you know, live your life better, whatever. But the point is that just by seeding it on StumbleUpon or other like networks, you could have gotten that much more views and shares out of your content than you would if you just hit publish, right? Another one, 99 songs to make your homework awesome. 2.5 million views. And all they had to do was just share it on this network. Now they probably built themselves up on this network over time so that their karma points or their whatever their scoring metrics are for their algorithm so that their stuff will get seeded better. But the point is if you invest the time, not that much time, by seeding other content that you found on the web, when it's time for you to publish your own, you have a chance of it, you know, getting that many more views. So this is the original post, 99 songs to make your homework awesome, 7,500 likes, and those 2 million or so views, unbelievable. And from an SEO perspective, it's not just shares or views, it's also links. If you look up that article I just showed you, you can see that many other blogs linking to it or embedding it or sharing it and so on. So just by seeding your content on these content discovery networks, you can squeeze more out of the content instead of just hitting publish. So more seeding sites, right? So there are many of these coming out, and just a few examples. Zeit is all mobile, and they are subject matter focused. So if you can get your content in front of those audiences by seeding it the right way, and some of these you have to figure out who the editors are and try to target them and reach out to them. But if you've got something great, why not get it in front of that many more focused, targeted eyeballs? Another one which I love, this one hasn't picked up as much yet, but it's called Poshfeed. Every time you open up a Chrome tab, it shows you another amazing piece of content. I love it as a user, so I can only imagine if I can get my content in front of those editors or seed it there, it has a chance of going viral just by the nature of being shown to thousands of viewers a day. How many of you guys heard of Sway? Heard of Sway? Cool. Nobody. So it's actually out of Tel Aviv, and I had no idea. I've been using it, and I had no idea. So what this is, so if I have an audience of thousands of people, like I'm a brand on Facebook, I don't just shove my content down their throat, right? I give them other interesting content so that they stay engaged with me. But how do these community managers, these social media folks know what to share? They're not scouring the web every day to find the coolest and the most engaging stuff so they can give it to their audience. They use tools, and one of those tools, like Sway, it looks at your audience, it looks at different posts that you've made, and it analyzes that metadata, and it suggests content that it thinks your audience will love. This happens to be just mine, but you can see that it's looked at some things that I've liked or mentioned in Twitter and Facebook. So if I'm a community manager, let's say for the Kahena Facebook page, I will go here to look for interesting content to share with my audience. So imagine if you can get your content seeded or understand how Sway finds content, your relevant stuff will go to targeted companies or brands who will then share it with their audience. Okay, so again, organic seeding in the right places. Seed all the things. So this is just another case study. This isn't our client, it's a friend's client I got permission to use. So Breaking Bad, everybody know Breaking Bad? Yeah? So, you know, content marketing, and again, I'm not gonna talk about coming up with ideas, but one way to come up with ideas is popular pop culture. What's seasonal, what's hot right now, what's exciting, and leveraging it for whatever your brand or product or service is. So this was a rehab center, drugrehab.org, and they have like a rehab center, and the client's goal was to get more traffic and more engagement and links and so on. So they created this How Meth Affects You and Breaking Bad infographic, right? But instead of just pushing publish on this beautiful infographic that they had their graphic designer make, they, and you can see some detail here, it's very, very cool. They also chopped it up, right? So if you have a long infographic, you can chop it up into little blocks. And they republished it on SlideShare. You guys know SlideShare? Yeah, so it's for sharing your slide decks and so on. So just by chopping that infographic up, they got another 11,000 viewers or so to see it on that network. So again, it's like repurposing content. So just because you've spent all this time to make a quiz or an infographic or a blog post, and you have to be careful about duplicate content issues and so on, but if it's something like a visual asset or a movie or some piece of content, seeding it in multiple places and repurposing it, reformatting it for whatever that network needs, you can get that much more, you can squeeze that much more out of it. And then you can take this embed and embed it on the original post. So if somebody wants to go left to right instead of up to down and so on, it's just another way for users to engage. Everybody knows BuzzFeed. It takes up way too much of our time, yeah? And he's not here, but one of the things that most people don't realize you can do on BuzzFeed is you can write your own articles on BuzzFeed. Has anybody written an article on BuzzFeed here before? You don't count. You're from Kahena. So, yeah, there's a community section. You can build up, it's hard to see on the contrast here, but Yakir, one of our team members, he only has 1 cat power now, okay? But that's how they build up your equity on the network and your authority. But as you build it, you can publish many articles and they get seeded in a more advantageous manner. And remember the infographic we just talked about? You can write a post that has nothing to do with your work or your product or your service, because that would be too forceful. 42 mind-boggling images that will melt your brain, okay? That sounds like something I want to scroll through when I'm killing time. And one of those items, you can use your asset, your visual graphic or whatever it is, and then link externally to the original source, the one on drugrehab.org or whatever it is. So the point is building up equity on different social content discovery networks so that when you have something to publish, even making a new piece of content and embedding yours so long as it's relevant and makes sense, because you just have that many more chances to get users to your site. Now that's kind of a long shot, but the point is go to the place that has a ton of traffic. You can siphon off the one that's, stuff that's relevant for you. Okay, I'm gonna go a bit faster now because I think I see Ido in the back. So paid acceleration. So you either have time or you have money, right? So if you don't have time to go seed on the network and play on BuzzFeed and build up profiles and so on, some of them are very quick to do, you should do them, but the longer term ones are harder. So you can pay to accelerate content. So Outbrain, he's gonna be talking about this today, so I'm giving you a nice mention here. And we'll pull it too, okay? And so, but Outbrain's a lot easier to use, and seriously, it's self-service. You can spend it yourself. You don't have to go through an account manager and spend $4,000 a month or whatever it is. But with Outbrain, we all know what this is, and Ido's gonna talk about it, but the idea is if you have a great piece of content, why not spend a little bit of money to get a ton of potential viewers? Now, the goal is not that you think that these viewers are going to see some article you wrote that's tangentially related to your product or service, and then they're going to buy your product or they're going to sign up for your app or whatever. That's a long shot. But what it does do is it allows you to get that many more eyeballs on your content who then may share it and then maybe get links, and all of a sudden, So the beauty of this is you don't just have to retarget users with your banners, shoving your, or whatever it is, and did not, they liked us, they spent some time on our website, but they did not see that content. So why not hit those people who we already know are engaged with, and this isn't a real ad, I just mocked this up. Wherever they are on the web, they may see something like this, a preview, kind of like a snippet of the article. And so instead of hard selling them because they've been to your website before, we try to get them back and read our content and become more engaged. This works really well with B2B niche software, especially out of Israel, a lot of B2B apps and so on. This long sales cycle, you continue to engage with your users who haven't yet filled out a web demo form or whatever by serving them soft sort of advertisement to your blog posts. Really effective. The last thing is in Facebook. This is amazing. So if you have something great and you want the press to find out about it, or journalists, why not target them on Facebook? This is how we all discover content these days, right? So advertise on Facebook, boost a post, right? This is not what you should be doing. How many of you guys have boosted a post in Facebook before? Okay, don't do that. Their goal is to make you spend as much money as possible, right? If you look at their last quarter, I think, I mean, it was unbelievable growth, especially for mobile. It's because of this. It's because it's an easy way for us to boost our posts, and it can work, but it's much more effective to go into the back end and create a new ad, choose the post that you want to publish, not just the one that you just are about to publish. Publish it, go into the back end, choose the post you want to publish, and then you can do things like, let me target people who are my fans of my page or are friends of my fans of my page in these countries or these age groups who already like these things, right? You can get some really amazing demographic and psychographic targeting. But beyond that, you can say, anybody who studied journalism in college, anyone who lives in New York, let's say, who works for CNN, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, NBC Universal, New York Times, right? And fewer than 1,000 people, which is actually incredible, because what we're saying is we have fewer than 1,000 people who we are serving content as they browse their news feeds, right? When they're looking for things randomly, let's say. And we could be serving them our great video or our content or our anything. And that's a pro tip right there. It doesn't always work. If what you're serving them is crap, they're, but if you have something great, pay a little bit of money to get it in front of the right eyeballs. And you can repeat this with whatever your market is. If it's not journalists you want, if it's politicians in Israel, you could do that too. I don't know why you want to do it, but you can do that. Okay, last one, automation. To complete the triangle. So, how many of you guys know about reverse image search? I hope. This is incredible tech, and it's really simple. Take any image, go to images.google.com, drag it in there, okay? That's just step one. That means you can find anywhere on the web where your image, whether it's your logo, your face, some proprietary images that you own or that you've created, okay? But that's kind of arduous because you have to scroll through the Google results. Instead, something called ImageRater, right, allows you to upload your proprietary images, right? Whether it's your logo, anything, any image on your site. And then, so if you sell products, okay, this is maybe less relevant for this crowd in terms of e-commerce, but for e-commerce, or if you have, I did this at SMX, but if like you have a logo of your face or your brand or anything, you throw it into ImageRater, and you get a result back of all the places on the web where your image is being used. And a lot of times, they don't link to you. So instead of going after them and saying copyright infringement and so on, you can sort by domain authority, which is a metric that Google sort of uses, and you can reach out and say, hey, thanks so much for mentioning us or using our image and so on. Would you mind linking back to our website? And that helps a lot, so that when you do produce content, your site is that much stronger and so on. And it's also good for social, blogger outreach and so on, people engaging with your brand. This works when you actually have a real brand and people are mentioning you or using your pictures, but you'd be surprised what you find out there. I'm going to go quick through this. Twitter, again, with the journalists, search for search queries that journalists are looking for so they can sort of accelerate your content. So journalists looking for a story, let's say, so for a story, and then your business, so if it's security or if it's, mobile apps, they're looking for people to interview, and why not get your startup in that content? So these are just a few examples. I'm running short on time here. But for example, if you work in security and web security, and somebody's searching about that, they want to write a story about it, there you go. You can get, and so here's the automation part that I was talking about. When you can see R2D2 there. So what about automation? So there are tools that you can take those advanced Twitter searches to find out when your audience or journalists are looking for what you already have, and you can automate it so that it goes into a feed. So if this, then that. Sort of some people, this is an amazing tool, not just for content marketing, for life. Their motto, put the internet to work for you. It helps connect various web apps together through their APIs. So it's as crazy as you can connect anything in here and more. I mean, it's insane. You can connect. If anybody tags you on Facebook, you can make your lights flicker at home. You know, if you have that kind of smart thing installed. But other things like anytime somebody mentions you, or you know, you get an email with this thing, post a Facebook message or create a calendar event. Amazing stuff. How do we do it for content marketing? Anytime someone mentions my brand, you guys probably have Google alerts, right? If you don't, set them up. But if you do, you know what that does. But instead of getting an email, deliver it to an RSS feed. This is all free, by the way. And when you get it in an RSS feed, forget this stuff, less important. This is what the RSS feed looks like. And then you can push that to various services to make your life easier as a marketer or as a startup person, whatever it is. So if somebody mentions for a story and mobile, or for us, or looking to interview and security, all of those mentions can automatically come to your Evernote or your Gmail or your even an instant message so that you can jump on it right away or the next day, have them all curated to reach out to those individuals. Take this concept and you can let your imagination run on what else you can do there. There's a couple other services. These are the last couple slides. So Yahoo Pipes, you can merge multiple RSS feeds. So if you've got an RSS feed from a content delivery network or other places, you can merge them together into one feed to make your life a little bit easier. And Zapier is another one like if this then that. You can connect over 250 web apps, Basecamp, Trello, your email services, Facebook, and so on, so that if people mention things and so on, you can automate that to give you the opportunities on accelerating and automating your content. And that's it. So organic seeding, getting your content in the right places, paid acceleration, pay a little bit to get more eyeballs or more targeted eyeballs on your great content, and automation, automating the discovery process and the distribution process so that you can really just get all the shares and the likes and the views and the links that you deserve. But it comes down to that. You can't just hit publish. You have to hustle a little bit. And that's it. Thanks.